All right, so hello everyone. So today we have a student from Northeastern University. His name is Hanson. So Hanson, can you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Hanson Truong. I'm a rising third year studying finance and data science. I'm from Los Angeles, California, but I'm currently at Northeastern University, so I reside in Boston. Yeah.
All right, perfect, awesome. So Hanson, can you just go in more in depth on guess like why you chose your major and like what specifically those entail?
Yeah. So I actually didn't decide on my major until I guess I applied to colleges with a range of different majors, but I ended up picking business because I had an interest in learning how to use money to make money. So basically investments, hence why I'm studying finance. Um, so that kind of came from my childhood, and my dad's always been in business, and he's always been interested in the idea of learning how to invest, and he's always preached that to me. But we never really got a chance to look further into that. So I kind of took this opportunity to learn, and I think it's a great career to have.
Awesome. And would you say like during high school that you had some mindset that you were planning to go into business, or like you circulated some of your high school activities or what you did around going into business, or were you just like exploring your options?
I was definitely exploring. I did not know that I was even vaguely interested in business until probably like late in the college app season. So I would say like almost nothing, none of what I did in high school reflected my interest in business. In fact, I think I was more of a STEM kid. I really wanted to do bio up until late, into like probably like almost into end of junior year is when I like decided like, oh, I don't know if this is right for me, so we'll try business. But I was open minded going into college as well. So yeah.
Right. Perfect. Awesome. I mean, I'm just personally for you, do you think having that open-minded idea is like okay for students? Because I know a lot of students, especially those who feel pressured by parents, to go into certain pathways, they're always thinking that I have to circulate whatever I do in high school to be what I'm going to plan to study with in college. Do you think, having that open-minded, like idea is still okay for students to have?
Yeah, I think you should definitely have that. Like you might, if you know what you want to do, that's great, but it's perfectly okay to not know. I think it's actually more, normal and yeah, frequently people don't know what they want to do until, when you're like halfway through college, you might end up
Yeah.
switching, and that's okay. So it's all about exploration and like kind of discovering what you like. So that takes time. So if you don't know what you want to do, it's perfectly fine.
All right, perfect. So, Hanson, obviously, you're going to Northeastern University, and since you're from LA, is going from West Coast to East Coast. So, I guess most importantly, can you list like a few factors as to why you chose to go specifically to Northeastern?
Yeah. So um, I kind of knew that I wanted to leave this like SoCal area just
Mhm.
because I was born and raised in LA, and I was from Arcadia High School, so we're a really big graduating class, and I know a lot of people that end up going to UCs. So when I went to orientations and like for the schools I got into in California, I think I realized that a lot of it was very similar, and I wouldn't be pushed out of my comfort zone as much. So therefore, I wouldn't learn as much. So when I went to Boston, and it's a complete brand new slate. You don't
Yeah.
have anything. You don't know anyone. I think it's a great opportunity to kind of rebuild yourself from the beginning without any expectations, and also just to kind of reestablish yourself and explore. Yeah. So East Coast was definitely an option for me. It was a little bit scary, but it was a good option, and I'm glad that I ended up taking that leap of faith.
Yeah, and if you don't mind sharing, like you said, it's kind of scary, going into a completely different state. So, did you have any like, general fears or concerns specifically, going to a completely new city, new state? I mean, like you mentioned, you're going out of your comfort zone. So, I guess what were your main fears going into Northeastern?
I mean, since it's in Boston, it's like, I've never really faced like a real winter in LA.
Yeah.
So everyone's immediate fear is like, oh, like, can I handle the cold? And yeah, it's really not that bad. It's, there are a lot of things about that area that you just learn to adapt.
Mhm.
Um, and I went in with a lot of uncertainties, to be completely honest. I don't think anyone's, really comfortable. And it kind of took me the whole semester to really get comfortable in my new, home, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so yeah, it was difficult, but it was definitely something that's really good for you because, you don't really have that many opportunities in life to, go discover a new place or move to a new city.
Mhm.
And this one being across the country was a great experience. So yeah, it's scary, but you can definitely make do with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like, was there any specific way that you found yourselves to help overcome those challenges, or like maybe a support system that was able to help you settle into the new environment?
Yeah, I think right when you, I think I really encourage all incoming freshmen to hit the ground running when you get, into university. Um, find the orgs that you like, or discover and try to find something you like, and that's how you meet people. Because your chances are like you're not going to end up meeting as many people if you're just walking around campus, but if you're actually like in an organization and you're like around people more often, you'll start building your circles and socializing. And when you have that mindset of I'm willing to meet people and try new things, that's when you kind of like grow all together and everything kind of begins to make sense, especially when
Yeah.
you can talk to people. You're going to meet a lot of other people from like different parts of the world, like that's way further than like a west coast east coast move.
Yeah, for sure.
So mhm.
All right, awesome. So I just want to take a couple steps back. Let's go a couple years before you entered college, and let's actually talk specifically more towards your college application process. So I guess in general, going into your senior year or going into this whole college app like process, how did you feel? Like what was your personal feelings about it? Were you concerned? Were you ready, or like did you not know what to do? Were you actually prepared for it? Like I guess briefly describe how you went into it.
Yeah. For me, I think I was actually I'd like to think I was prepared, but to be completely honest, like, I'm the oldest child in my family, so I don't really there wasn't anyone that was, like, directly there for me to be like, "Okay, this is how you should do it," or, like, "You should visit these schools," or, "Here are some things you can look at." So for me, I kinda went into it, like, blindsided. I had a counselor, but
Yeah.
even then, it was, like, difficult. So I didn't really know exactly what I was doing, and it was kind of a very abstract concept to me, like, "Oh, applying to college."
Yeah.
And I didn't really consider it to be something. I knew it was a big part of my life, but it's such a big part of your life that sometimes you're like, I don't really know if, I know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
So I was definitely in that state of mind where I was like, "I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna trust myself to know that I'm prepared to do it." Yeah,
Okay.
if that makes. Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, would you say that a lot of students take college applications or this whole process for granted? Like we just assume that we're supposed to apply to college, so it'll come when it comes.
Yeah, and I think, that's okay to have, but, like, I think a lot of kids, especially from our area, go into it thinking like, "Okay, there are these schools that are, like, the ones that I need to go to."
Yeah,
And that's great, like, they're all great schools. There are, like, obviously the Ivies, and there's a ton of other great schools, but there are also, like, a lot of other factors that kind of add up to making sure that this school is right for you, and you
mhm,
should definitely look past just, like, the really common schools that a lot of kids from your high school go to.
yeah, for sure.
Um, so like for me, like at Northeastern, um, there weren't that many kids. I think my graduating class there was probably just me and one other girl who ended up going to Northeastern.
Okay.
Um, so it wasn't one of those schools that was like UCLA where like a ton of people go or something, right?
Mhm.
So it was definitely less comfortable for me to pick this school because there weren't as many other people validating my decision. But that's perfectly okay, and I think I actually made the right decision by picking the school that I thought was right for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it makes sense because going into school, not having many of your own high school classmates go with you, it gives you the chance to as you mentioned, explore and find
Mhm.
new friends. Yeah, for sure. I would say though, like during your college application process, since you like you mentioned, like you would like to think that you're prepared, but not necessarily. How would you say that you found ways to help get yourself prepared? Like, did you talk to upperclassmen? Did you just go do some simple searches on the internet? Did you talk to your own friends? Like, I guess what was your main form of like getting information towards applying to college?
Um, Definitely online, like, just looking for schools. College is just hard because there's so many different colleges. But kind of like, just typing in Google, like, schools that are good for, I don't know, whatever your intended major is, or like certain things. I know there are websites that you can like filter out your, requirements or something.
Yeah.
Um, but also like reaching out to people who are older than me. I wish I had done that more, to be completely honest.
Mhm.
Like if you've already narrowed down your college search to like a list of colleges, and you can find someone from each of those schools that went to your high school,
Mhm.
ask them because they came from the same environment that you're going to be you're going to be leaving, right?
Yeah.
So they know how that transition is going to feel like, and they probably have a more relatable experience
Mhm.
than if you were just hit up like a random person who goes to the school. So
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend doing more of that. I wish I had done more of that. It probably would have helped a lot, but I ended up using the internet a lot more and like asking my counselor questions, which is perfectly fine. But having a like firsthand, like someone firsthand to tell you like how their experience was helps a lot.
All right, awesome. And I would say, doing your internet searches, I think a lot of students, what they look at first is specifically rankings. There's a ton of rankings online. And furthermore, on top of that, there's so many things that tell you, oh, this is the average GPA of this school, average SAT and ACT. Like, I know things are cloudy right now in terms of like whether or not standardized testing will still continue in the future. But how much like importance do you think those specific rankings and those numbers that we see online should really play a factor into where we're applying to, or like how concerned we should feel about applying to certain schools?
To be completely honest, I think rankings is a lot more important. Like in high school, you view it as really important,
Mhm.
but when you get to college, you kind of figure out how rankings work, and they're not really like they don't say that much about the school. Obviously, if your school is high ranked, they're probably a good program, but
Yeah.
just because like a school might be lower ranked doesn't mean they're necessarily a bad program or not as good. There could be, tons of reasons why they ended up having that rank instead of a higher rank, and
Hmm.
that's okay. I think you should look more into what makes a school the best fit for you.
All
Um,
right.
so yeah, like take rankings. You don't have to take rankings into consideration like that much. Obviously, like they're there to help you, like kind of gauge like where you think you can
Yeah.
be, but you have to be honest with yourself and look at like the stats. Average stats are good to compare yourself with, but it doesn't mean if you're like below average, it doesn't mean you don't have a shot.
Yeah,
There
for
are a lot
sure.
of kids who get in for certain reasons because they're a good match for that school, and the school recognizes that. You know, so you have to be honest with yourself in respect to like all the categories when you're looking at college search, rankings, stats, everything combined. Yeah, so take everything into perspective, I guess.
All right, awesome. And I guess just to help wrap up the college application aspect, if you could go back in time and redo like one or two things, what would you redo in the past?
um I would have applied to more colleges out of state or like
Okay.
looked harder, because we haven't gotten to this yet, but my college search, like how I ended up at Northeastern is kind of
Hmm.
unconventional. If you want to get into that, Christian, I can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're more than happy to.
Okay. So Northeastern, at least on the West Coast or like in like the LA area,
Mhm.
I don't think the name is that established, or it wasn't when I applied.
Yeah,
Uh,
I totally agree with you on that one.
yeah, so I wasn't even aware that this school existed, and I ended up submitting my application for Northeastern the day before the deadline. So
Oh
that
wow.
was during senior year, winter break.
Yeah.
And it was like, like late December, and I was like, this is the end. So
Hmm.
my counselor texted me and she was like, hey, there's a school, Northeastern. It has a great business program and they have these things called co-ops. And I was like, okay. And it was an easy app because they don't have, I think they might have like one supplement, but it's definitely like a quick
Yeah.
application. So I like, submitted it. And when I got in to Northeastern, I didn't even like really read the acceptance letter. It was the first acceptance that I got. They
Oh,
accepted
interesting.
really early.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't really high on my like list of schools.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, interesting, but okay, I didn't really care for it. And after I visited those UCs, and most of the schools that I applied to were in California, so after I visited all those schools, I was like, okay, I think this feels too comfortable, and it would be better if I left. So I was like, okay, let's look at the schools out of state.
Yeah.
So I got to Northeastern and like a few other schools in Boston. So I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, let's go to Boston and visit these schools.
Hmm.
And I'd also never been to the East Coast. So I ended up visiting this school like Northeastern and hearing about their program and becoming really interested and realizing that this was a great opportunity for me.
Hmm.
And just like that, Northeastern on my college list, like I think I had it at like 10 or something, like went up to
Okay.
like top three, just like that.
Hmm.
And I think I made a really good decision in, how that happened. But, I didn't even know that school existed. So I wish I had done more research,
Uh-huh.
to like, how did I not realize this was a good school,
Yeah.
you know,
I feel you.
or a school that was fit for me. That shows that, I wasn't as diligent as I should have been in my college search. Um, so yes, I guess that if that answers your question, it's definitely
Yeah,
like
for
gives you
sure.
some perspective. Hmm.
Yeah, and actually, funny story is like, the reason I applied to Northeastern as well too, and it's actually because of you. Where I was talking to you, kind of like that thing where I was talking to upperclassmen to figure it out. And yeah, like we mentioned, for especially for students who are in the LA region, Northeastern, because it's not as well established in the West Coast area as being like one of the popular schools. I feel like East Coast, we always think of Ivy Leagues like NYU, schools like that. So yeah, I mean, definitely, it's a school to apply to, and I really think it has a lot of great programs and opportunities. And that's actually what I want to cover into this next part. Specifically, I know you had the chance to actually do a study abroad program through Northeastern. I was wondering if you could talk about your general experiences of studying abroad for a semester.
Yeah, so I studied abroad the first semester of my freshman year.
Hmm.
So I didn't even get a chance to like I started off abroad. Was never on campus before
Hmm.
that. So it was a really good experience, and it's actually like one of the ways that Northeastern admits students. They give you an option to study abroad right off the start, and I
Hmm.
was like, okay, so I took it, and it was a really good experience to kind of start away from this like that area. Uh, there are pros and cons to like starting while you're abroad or starting abroad.
Yeah.
But I think it was really fun, and it definitely made it easier to adapt because I went to Greece. I went to Thessaloniki, Greece for my study
Hmm.
abroad. So moving from LA to Greece is definitely a way harder than moving from LA to Boston.
Yeah.
The culture is completely different. They speak a different language. So learning how to adapt like that, and also like it was fun, and it gave me an opportunity to meet kids from that program or like from other schools that were also there. We all studied at like one university.
Hmm.
So you got a chance to meet like a lot of kids from different schools that I'm still in touch with, and a lot of my closest friends to this day are kids from Northeastern who went with me that I met there for the first time, because that's my initial freshman experience,
Yeah.
my first semester abroad. um, so if you have a chance to go abroad, I would definitely recommend taking it. I think it opens your eyes to a lot of different things that you don't realize if you've just been, in the States the whole time. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I talking to students at my university and like their opinion on study abroad. I see a lot of concerns just, I mean, with study abroad, like a lot of kids, they want to go outside and get that chance to explore and visit a completely new, country or like area. I think the main concerns they have is like, covering the cost of it, whether the social life, like especially if you're starting in your freshman year, how will you adapt to the social life back at your university? And I mean, just the what do you call it? Like, I guess the education itself, like how much do you actually gain from it? So I guess if you could just quickly address those concerns, like whether or not you think they're true or like how you can like fix them or overcome those problems.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with like the educational aspect.
Hmm.
The university you're going to be studying at when you're abroad is probably, unless it's like a really like high ranked university like in the
Hmm.
world, it's probably not going to be as good an education as the one that you would have at your university, to be
Hmm.
completely honest.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're not going to be learning as much, because the point of study abroad is to learn outside of the classroom. So usually when people do study abroad, ventures, they end up kind of like taking courses that are like maybe elective courses or courses that aren't like core and integral to your major,
Yeah.
right? I would recommend doing that. So you're there to really experience more of this like travel and like the abroad aspect than the study aspect. But a lot of schools will integrate the two. So you will have like your study abroad experience that's integrated with your class. So it's
Hmm.
related, right? And that's a great way to do it. So that kind of takes care of like the educational aspect, because I think if you know you want to study abroad, you're going to have planned out like I'm going to take these two classes that are like electives while I'm
Yeah.
abroad, because they're not as quote unquote important as like core classes, and that's okay, because then now you get to learn in a different setting, and that's like you learn other things, and it's great. In terms of like the social aspect, if you're taking a semester abroad, like I don't know how many schools offer like an initial freshman year like study
Yeah.
abroad program, but for me, a lot of kids at Northeastern, I think a third of our incoming freshman class are abroad.
Oh wow.
So that means when they come back, like that means in the fall semester while we are abroad, there's 2/3 of the freshman class on campus. And when we come back in the
Mhm.
spring, that's the last third that's added to that batch.
Oh,
So
interesting.
a lot of our school programs and orgs um, know how to integrate us. And there are a lot of kids who are part of that program. And that program is called like the NUN program, like NU International. So
Hmm.
there are a lot of NUN kids that come in the spring.
Okay.
So the social aspect is like you're not going to be losing much, and you're also going to be really close to the people you go abroad with. Yeah. So I think it's totally okay to give it a shot. And it's like you shouldn't really be worried about it. I think if you know where like that you're gonna study abroad, you're gonna know like how you're gonna plan on doing it and like stuff like that.
All right,
Mhm.
awesome. And then, I actually want to now go into like maybe a bit of like the extracurriculars you're participating in. And one thing you mentioned was like Northeastern's co-op program. So I was wondering if you could just briefly describe what that is and like, how it's impacted you.
Yeah. So basically, I'll start off by defining what a co-op is.
Hmm.
So it's an experience. It's an opportunity to work for a full semester full time in your career or your major. So you're actually working, and the requirements for a co-op is that it has to be full time. It has to kind of like check off a box of like that's related to your major, and you have to be paid for it.
Hmm.
So a co-op, we have a base. We basically say like, let's say these co-ops usually start in like your sophomore year. So for me, I'm currently on co-op right now. So what that means is my fall of my sophomore year, I'm on a job search that entire semester while I'm taking classes. And when I get my job, the job will be for the next spring semester. So it's always like, you're going back and forth. And
Yeah.
usually kids will do 2 co-ops or 3 co-ops, depending on like when you want to graduate.
Hmm.
I'm doing 2 and graduating in 4 years. So I'm coming off
Perfect.
with a full year of experience, like working experience, and 3 years of, I guess you can say, like study, right? Like in
Yeah.
class experience. Um, so these co-op programs kind of, you have a lot of relationships that are built within the school. So a lot of companies have relationships with the school already, and
Hmm.
you apply, and you have to apply, you have to interview, it's just your normal job search, and it's highly competitive. But if
Yeah.
you are competitive, it's a great opportunity to get experience on your resume before you head into like the workforce, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
And would you
Um,
say like I guess with this co-op program, the students that are like pre-med or pre-law and those who definitely need those experiences, would you say that this co-op program would definitely still help out anyone regardless of what your major is or what like field in academia you're focused on?
yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest, and the co-op program is better for certain majors than there are for
Mhm.
like others. Like if you think about it, I'm a business major, so
Yeah.
especially in finance, like right now I'm co-oping at a firm, and it's great because you can do all these things. But like if you're like a poli sci background, right, and what you might want to be co-oping in, it's like kind of vague because like what would you be doing that's beneficial through co-op, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there are certain jobs that are definitely like certain majors that definitely make more sense for co-op to be integrated with, but there are a lot of majors that makes sense for. So like pre-med makes a lot of sense, business makes a lot of sense, engineering makes a lot of sense. You can work as like CS, computer science, like all these, the I guess the wide range of like
Yeah.
majors has a good opportunity through co-op.
Okay.
But if you're in like one of a more like liberal arts major or something that's a little bit more difficult and niche, it might be difficult to find a co-op. Um, but I should mention that a co-op doesn't have to be something that like is through the school. You can find any job and make that a co-op. It just has to check off those 3 boxes of being related to your major, being paid, and being full time. So.
Okay. Awesome.
Mhm.
So it sounds like I mean that it was obviously a great program for you, especially since you're able to do it multiple times and still graduate within like the typical 4 years that
Right.
most university students take. Awesome. And if you could just touch on like any other extracurriculars that you're doing right now that you're like super passionate about doing, or something that you didn't get the chance to do in high school that now you're able to do.
Yeah. So I guess like if I go off my biggest commitments over this past year, so first I'm in a like professional business fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Alpha Kappa Psi, and this group is basically a group that helps me learn and prepare me for like that co-op search, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to learn a lot of skills in order to know how to network, in order to learn how to interview, to get these jobs. Like, there are certain things, and joining these organizations gives you access to a lot of people who are older than you, and therefore they can be your mentors.
Yeah.
So this group was great for that, and they accept every type of major, and basically just helps you kind of learn a lot about like our core values and points you in the right direction. And it's just a great group. And something else that I did to kind of stay in touch with my Asian American like
Hmm.
side and that
Yeah.
group on campus. I'm part of the Asian Student Union on the executive board. Um, so that was a really good experience this past year. Just basically we get funding from the school to bring in famous Asian Americans, either performers or speakers or anything, so they can
Oh, awesome.
advocate for Asian American issues. So there's a lot of that. And then I was also doing a lab. So like I'm on co-op this semester, so I'm not in
Mhm.
classes, but I was doing a 1 credit lab
Mhm.
that was based on data science. And basically what that was I was partnered with a company, Schneider Electric, and basically I did data analysis for them. And it was like a lot of Python and coding, but it was a great experience to kind of work with another employer, to kind of build a relationship with them and just learn on my own. So um, in terms of like things I wanted to do in high school that I didn't get a chance to do, like um, I guess it might actually be the other way around. Like if I'm being
Uh-huh.
completely honest, like in at Northeastern, I wish I could. I did a lot of like liberal arts and sports in high school,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I really miss that and wish I could do that at my school. And I can, but the thing is, I don't have that much time.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, so I kind of like orientate myself and the organizations I'm part of towards my career, with a little bit of passion in it. But if I had like all the time in the world, I definitely end up joining an ensemble, like musical ensemble. I'd
Yeah.
probably try out for like club swim and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe I will in the future. But I kind of know like what direction I need to be going in right now, and right now that's like career oriented.
Okay.
So I've made that my priority. But there
All
are
right.
so many things you can explore. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'd all want to go back to playing music or sports, but at the same time, we have to be realistic, I think. So I think that's a
exactly.
good mention. And I
Mhm.
guess, just to wrap this video up, if you could give any advice to, high school students watching this, whether they're going into business or just trying to figure out college in general, what would be like, I guess, the biggest advice you would give to those students?
Yeah. I tell them that, it's perfectly normal for you to be uncomfortable and unsure about what you want to do. That's the first thing. And if you want to feel better about that, a great way to do that is to reach out to people who are older than you. I know it's sometimes scary, because I was in your shoes where, you're like a senior in high school. Like, why would you? It feels uncomfortable to reach out to someone who's older than you because, like, why would they want to talk to you? But I think a lot of people do want to help. And they have a lot of insight that they would be willing to share. So please, like, reach out to the mentors. Please reach out to people who you've been friends with in high school and that they're graduated, but they can still offer you a lot of help and like experience and just insights that you won't have because you're a little bit younger than them. You know.
Yeah.
So don't be scared to do that. I think it definitely helps a ton. Hmm.
All right. All right, awesome. Well, yeah, so obviously, thank you so much, Hanson, for, spending your time to share your story with us and, answer a couple of these questions. And yeah, for everyone out there, just keep in mind of what Hanson's saying. And yeah, it's definitely important to reach out to people, keep that balanced life. And yeah, we hope that you guys got enough information from this video as you could.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Mhm.